Hello everyone, this is Mansoor Mustafa. In this video, I'll explain the MCQs related to the topic of momentum. But before starting the video, let me clear one thing. This is only for the students who are going to appear in 2023 and onwards. It means that if you are going to appear before 2023, so you don't need to cover this topic. So let's start. So I have divided this chapter into three sections. First of all, I'll explain the questions related to the momentum. Then we'll see questions related to the law of conservation of momentum. And at the end, we'll see the questions related to the impulse. So let's start. Let's have a recap that what is momentum and what is the formula to calculate momentum. Now, when we talk about the momentum, this is the quantity of motion in an object. It means if an object is moving, how much quantity of motion it contains, that is called momentum. It means if an object is at rest, so it won't have any momentum. This is represented by a symbol P, and formula to calculate momentum is the product of mass and velocity, and its SI unit is kilograms meters per second. Now there is a relationship between force and momentum, that is force is the change in momentum per unit time. So this change is represented by a symbol delta. This delta is used to represent the change in any quantity. So here we are discussing the change in momentum, so that will be delta P divided by time. So that is the formula, or you can say the relationship between force and moment. So let's start with the first question. In first question, which of these is the correct definition for the momentum and its unit? It means कि आपने ये बताना है कि momentum की correct definition means कि what is the correct formula to calculate momentum. Along with that, what is the correct unit? आपने formula भी correct वाला और unit भी proper choose करना है. Now, if we look for the definition of momentum, which we have just discussed, that momentum is the product of mass and velocity. Now, if we look for the options, so it is looking like that option D is the correct one because it's correctly defining the definition of momentum. But if we look for the unit in option D, so that is not the correct unit for the momentum. So it means that option D is not the correct one. So let's look for other options. In option A, it's mentioned that momentum is the mass divided by velocity. So that is not the correct definition. So it means that option A भी correct नहीं है. Now if we look for the options B and C, तो आप देखें इनमें units जो हैं they are the correct units of the momentum. तो it means कि correct option इन दोनों में से कोई एक होगा. Now let's check them. Now in option B, it's mentioned that velocity is the momentum multiplied by mass. But if we look the definition of momentum, so that is not the correct, because अगर आपने इस इक्वेशन से velocity find करनी है, so that will be momentum divided by time, not multiplied by. So it means that option B is also not correct. Now we have only one option left. इसको भी चेक कर लेते हैं. डेफिनेटली दैट विल बी द करेक्ट आंसर, बट इसको हम वेरीफाई कर लेते हैं कि ये किस तरह करेक्ट है. नाउ अगर आप देखें इन दिस ऑप्शन इट्स मेंशन्ड कि v इज द means के velocity is the momentum divided by time. So that can be true from this equation कि अगर हमने velocity find करनी हो, so that will be momentum divided by mass, and its unit is also correct, that is kilograms meters per second. So option C is the correct one. Now moving to the next question, this is very important question in terms of momentum. Question is that a dummy is used in a crash test to investigate the safety of a new car. The deceleration of the dummy and the passenger compartment is measured. The deceleration of the dummy is less than the deceleration of the passenger compartment. Why is this benefit for the safety of passengers? Now this question, let me explain this question. There is a car test. Now what happens when this car collides with the barrier? So definitely its speed decreases, means it will have deceleration. But it's mentioned कि dummy means कि in if we compare it with the real life, so that will be the driver. So the deceleration of driver and the passenger compartment is different according to the question. Now question is that why this is so, means ke if they are moving with the same speed, so they must have the same deceleration. बट अकॉर्डिंग टू द क्वेश्चन कि जो डमी की डिसेलरेशन है, मींस के इन रियल लाइफ जो ड्राइवर की डिसेलरेशन होगी दैट विल बी लेस देन द डिसेलरेशन ऑफ द पैसेंजर कंपार्टमेंट. नाउ रीजन, इसका जो रीजन होता है, द रीजन इज दैट there is an airbag inside the modern cars, so that airbag actually reduces the deceleration of the driver. तो इससे क्या होता है कि जो ड्राइवर या इन दिस केस जो डमी की एक्सेलरेशन होगी that will be less than the acceleration of the deceleration of the passenger compartment. नाउ ये तो हमें पता, हमने देख लिया कि देयर विल बी अ डिफरेंस इन देयर डिसेलरेशंस. अब हम देखते हैं कि ये जो डिसेलरेशन डिक्रीज होती है, मींस के जो एयर बैग्स होते हैं ये ड्राइवर की डिसेलरेशन को डिक्रीज करते हैं, तो उसका एडवांटेज क्या होता है. नाउ इफ यू लुक फॉर द relationship between force and the momentum, so that is force is the change in momentum per unit time. इसका मतलब ये है कि अगर हम इस टाइम को इंक्रीज कर दें, विच इज द टाइम फॉर द अकरेंस ऑफ मोमेंटम, अगर इस टाइम को इंक्रीज करते हैं सो दैट फोर्स विल बी रिड्यूस्ड. सो ये जो फोर्स होती है एक्चुअली दिस इज द इम्पैक्ट फोर्स ऑन द ऑब्जेक्ट. तो इसका मतलब ये होगा कि जितना हम टाइम को इंक्रीज करेंगे उसके रिजल्ट में जो इम्पैक्ट फोर्स होगी वो रिड्यूस हो जाएगी, और इम्पैक्ट फोर्स रिड्यूस होने का मतलब ये कि जो डैमेज होगा वो कम से कम प्रोड्यूस होगा. सो दैट इज एन एडवांटेज. और ये एडवांटेज किस तरह से प्रोड्यूस होता है, बाय इंक्रीजिंग द अमाउंट ऑफ टाइम. सो फ्रॉम द ऑप्शन डी विल बी द करेक्ट वन, कि दैट विल time means it will elongate the time, so that will be an advantage for the passenger. Now moving to the next question, this is quite simple question. In this question you only have to find out the correct relationship between force and momentum. So this is what we have discussed, कि force is the change in momentum per unit time. Now next question, a roller coaster speeds along a track with a considerable momentum. If a different roller coaster travels at 4 times the speed but has half as much mass, its momentum would be. अब आपने ये बताना है कि there are two roller coasters. Let's say we call it as roller coaster X and the second we call it as a roller coaster Y. Now it's mentioned कि जो roller coaster Y है इसकी speed X से 4 times ग्रेटर है बट इसका मास X से हाफ है. तो अब आपने बताना है कि इन दोनों के मोमेंट्स में क्या डिफरेंस, मींस के जो मोमेंट होगा, सॉरी मोमेंटम ऑफ द रोलर कोस्टर Y होगा वो मोमेंटम ऑफ रोलर कोस्टर X से उसका क्या रिलेशन होगा, मींस के विल इट बी सेम और विल बी इट बी इंक्रीज्ड और डिक्रीज, ये हमने बताना है. नाउ लेट्स सॉल्व दिस क्वेश्चन. According to the given statement, mass is half of as previous one and speed is as 4 times. So if we solve it, we'll get 2 mv. Now this 2 mv represents के जो रोलर कोस्टर Y है इसका जो मोमेंटम होगा that will be twice as much as the momentum of the roller coaster X. So option B is the correct one. Now we move to the next question. Now in this question you are given a paint ball और उस पेंट बॉल का जो मास है that is 150 grams and when it hits the stationary target, after that its speed becomes 20 meters per second. अब आपने ये बतानी है मींस के with the speed of 20 meter per second ये hit करता है. Now sorry, the time it takes, yeah, it is in contact with that wall is the 0.25 meters per second. Now what is the टोटल फोर्स प्रोड्यूस, मींस के फोर्स उस पेंट बॉल के ऊपर कितनी होगी वो आपने फाइंड करनी है. नाउ बिफोर सॉल्विंग दिस क्वेश्चन, अब ये क्वेश्चन हम सॉल्व करेंगे यूजिंग द फार्मूला दैट force is the change in momentum per unit time, means ke that is the formula. It means ke first of all we'll be calculating change in momentum, then we'll divide with the given time in order to calculate the force. But before solving the question, there is one important thing, is that whenever you are solving the question in physics, you have to consider the units properly, means कि आपने units पर properly focus करना है कि whether they are given in a correct form or is there any need to for the conversion of these units. तो जहां पर unit conversion की need होगी, so before solving the question we have to convert those units into the proper unit. जो requirement बनेगी according to that we have to convert. So in this question, we are given mass in grams. As we are calculating force in Newton, which is the SI unit, तो it means कि हमने mass को भी SI unit में convert करना पड़ेगा, which is the kilogram. So it means कि in first step we'll convert this mass into kilogram. So this is done by dividing it with 1000. So we'll get 0.15 kilograms. Now अब हमने calculate करना है change in momentum. अब change in momentum means के final momentum minus initial momentum. So that will represent the change. अब final momentum किसके equal होगा? Mass multiply by final velocity. Same like initial momentum will be mass multiply by initial velocity. We are representing u as an initial velocity and v as a final velocity. ठीक? Now mass will remain same, so we just take m as a common, so that will be v minus u. Now if we put the values, so we'll get a value for the change in momentum, that is 33 kilograms meter per second. So this is the value for the change in momentum. Now this is not our answer, but if you look for the options, so you are also given this value. So don't confuse, this is not your answer because you have to calculate the force. अब आप force कैसे calculate करेंगे? So a relationship between force and momentum is the force is the change in momentum per unit time. So change in momentum is 33. This is not 330, this is 33. There is a mistake in this question. So there is 33 and we have to divide with the time, so that is 0.025. So we'll get an answer for the force, that is 1320 Newton. But if you look for the options, you don't have this option, so you have to convert this value into the standard form. Remember this thing, beta, whenever you are given a very large or very small numbers, so it's better to convert into standard form. Now if you have difficulty that how to convert a number into standard form, so I have a separate video, just go through that video, then you will have a clear idea okay, how to convert a number into standard form. So if you look for the options, so option A is the correct one. Now next question, a ball of mass 1.2 kilogram is moving with a velocity 2 meters per second. When it is acted by a force of 4 Newton, the velocity of the object increases to 5 meter per second. अब आपने कैलकुलेट करना है कि जो टाइम ड्यूरेशन होगी ड्यूरिंग दिस चेंज ऑफ मोमेंटम इज अकरिंग, वो टाइम ड्यूरेशन आपने बतानी है. नाउ in this question, this is almost same question like question number 4, with only difference के previous question में हमने force calculate करनी थी, but in this question we have to calculate the time. So we'll solve this question in same way. First of all we'll calculate the momentum. Momentum को calculate करने के बाद we have the formula that force is the change in momentum per unit time, and if we want to calculate time, though that will be change in momentum divided by force. So that change in momentum which we have calculated, that is 3.6, and force is given 4, so we'll get 0.9 seconds. It means that option A is the correct one. Now next question, this is again very important question. ये important इस तरह है कि in this question you are given the signs along with the magnitudes of the velocities. अब ये जो signs हैं positive और negative, they are actually representing the directions of the velocities. अब देखें, it is mentioned an object is moving at a plus 3 meter per second. It means that let's say we are considering this as a right direction, it is moving in the right direction. A force acts on the object. After a time, objects moving at a minus 4 meter per second square. It means that after applying that force, object has started moving in the opposite direction. Means के पॉजिटिव और नेगेटिव ये शो कर रहे हैं कि प्रीवियसली इट वाज मूविंग जिस भी डायरेक्शन में मूव कर रहा था, आफ्टर applying the force, now it has started moving in the opposite direction with a velocity of 4 meter per second square, and the mass of object is given 5 kilograms. आपने बताना है कि इस ऑब्जेक्ट में चेंज ऑफ मोमेंटम कितना प्रोड्यूस होगा. ठीक, सो चेंज ऑफ मोमेंटम हम कैसे कैलकुलेट करेंगे? यूजिंग द सेम फार्मूला, फाइनल मोमेंटम माइनस इनिशियल मोमेंटम. बट व्हेनेवर यू आर सॉल्विंग द क्वेश्चन, यू हैव टू कीप दीज प्रॉपर सिंबल्स. मींस के यू हैव टू सॉल्व अकॉर्डिंग टू दीज गिवन सिंबल्स. अब दीज साइंस अब आप कैसे सॉल्व करेंगे? -5 that -4 that is the final velocity, and +3 that is the initial velocity. So that will become -7. So now you have to multiply this with the mass, so you will get minus 35 kilograms meter per second. It means that if you don't consider these signs properly, so you might get an incorrect answer. ठीक, so you must focus on the particular signs whenever you are solving a vector quantity. So the correct option is minus 35 kilograms meters per second. Now this question is again very important question. अब आप देखें इसमें भी यही है कि a ball of mass 0.5 kilograms falls and hits the floor at an speed of 10 meter per second square. जब वो hit करता है, after that it rebounds at an speed of 8 meter per second, but उसकी जो rebounds की speed होगी that is in the opposite direction. So again, when you solve this question, you have to keep that these directions in your mind. Now in previous question it was mentioned कि जो 3 है that is positive and 4 is the negative. But इस question में ये mention नहीं है कि positive कौन सी है negative कौन सी है. Now that means कि how will you decide कि आपने किस direction को positive लेना है और किस को negative लेना है. Now it's on your choice. ये आपकी मर्जी है कि आप डाउनवर्ड को पॉजिटिव कंसीडर करते हैं या अपवर्ड को. बट कीप दिस थिंग इन माइंड कि अगर ये ऑपोजिट डायरेक्शन होगी तो आपने एक को पॉजिटिव कंसीडर करना पड़ेगा और उसकी जो ऑपोजिट होगी उसको आपने नेगेटिव कंसीडर करना पड़ेगा. सो लेट्स सॉल्व दिस क्वेश्चन बाय टेकिंग 10 एज अ पॉजिटिव. हम जो है डाउनवर्ड डायरेक्शन को पॉजिटिव ले लेते हैं और अपवर्ड को नेगेटिव लेके इस क्वेश्चन को सॉल्व करते हैं. नाउ फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल हमने फोर्स को कैलकुलेट करने के लिए we have to calculate the change in momentum, so that will become mass multiplied by final speed minus initial speed, same like we are doing in the previous question. So final speed in this case is minus 8 and initial speed is plus 10. So finally that will become minus 18. ठीक है ना बेटा, minus 8 and minus 10 that will become minus 18. अब इस minus 18 को हमने मल्टीप्लाई करना है मास से which is the 0.5 kilograms. So we'll get change in momentum minus 9 kilograms meter per second. ये हो गया change in momentum. अब हमने फोर्स फाइंड करनी है, सो वी हैव टू डिवाइड दिस चेंज इन मोमेंटम विद द टाइम विच इज 0.50 सेकेंड्स. सो वी विल गेट एन आंसर minus 18 न्यूटन. अब ये आंसर हमने फाइंड कर लिया, बट इफ वी लुक फॉर द ऑप्शंस, सो minus 18 न्यूटन का ऑप्शन कहीं पे भी नहीं है. देन हाउ विल डिसाइड कि विच वन इज द करेक्ट ऑप्शन. नाउ दैट विल डिपेंड on the sign of your answer. कैसे डिपेंड करेगा कि if you are getting answer as a negative, तो इसका मतलब ये होगा कि इस फोर्स की डायरेक्शन वो डायरेक्शन होगी जो कि आपने कंसीडर की है नेगेटिव डायरेक्शन. इट मींस के इन दिस केस you have considered negative as an upward direction and you are also getting an answer as a negative. तो इसका मतलब ये होगा कि इस फोर्स की जो डायरेक्शन होगी that will be upward. So the correct option is option C, 18 Newton upwards. ठीक हो गया. Now there might be a question in your mind कि यहाँ पर तो हमने जो है डाउनवर्ड को पॉजिटिव लिया है और अपवर्ड को नेगेटिव लिया है, बट व्हाट इफ वी कंसीडर डाउनवर्ड एज अ नेगेटिव एंड अपवर्ड एज अ पॉजिटिव, तो क्या होगा. विल द आंसर रिमेन सेम और विल देयर बी एनी चेंज. सो लेट्स डू इट इन दैट वे. अब हम इस क्वेश्चन को दोबारा सॉल्व करते हैं जस्ट बाय रिवर्सिंग द डायरेक्शन. अब हम ये करते हैं डाउनवर्ड को नेगेटिव कंसीडर करते हैं और अपवर्ड को पॉजिटिव करके कंसीडर करके सॉल्व करते हैं क्वेश्चन को. नाउ फाइनल स्पीड इज 8 and the initial velocity is minus 10, so that will minus into minus that will become plus, so we'll get 18 and we multiply with the mass, so we'll get 9 kilograms meter per second. That is the change in momentum. और इस change in momentum से force calculate करेंगे, so we'll get an answer 18 Newton. Now it's confused. In previous case, when we were considering downward as a positive, so we were getting answer plus 18, लेकिन sorry minus 18, बट अब हमारे पास आ रहा है plus 18. तो अब क्या होगा, आंसर तो डिफरेंट हो गया. तो इट मीन्स के इज देयर एनी मिस्टेक इन द क्वेश्चन. लेट्स डू इट, चेक कर लेते हैं कि व्हाट्स द प्रॉब्लम. नाउ प्रीवियसली हाउ वी डिसाइडेड कि वेदर ऑब्जेक्ट इज मीन्स के दैट फोर्स इज डायरेक्शन डाउनवर्ड एंड अपवर्ड, that was decided with the sign of this force. previous option में या previous solution में जो फोर्स आ रही थी दैट वाज नेगेटिव, और उसकी जो नेगेटिव डायरेक्शन थी इन प्रीवियस केस दैट वाज इन अपवर्ड डायरेक्शन। तो इसका मतलब ये था कि हमारे पास जो करेक्ट ऑप्शन बन रहा था 18 न्यूटन अपवर्ड। अब हम यहाँ पर देख लेते हैं, इन दिस केस वी आर गेटिंग फोर्स एज अ पॉजिटिव। तो इसका मतलब ये होगा कि इस फोर्स की डायरेक्शन वो डायरेक्शन होगी जो कि हमने कंसीडर की है पॉजिटिव डायरेक्शन। अब हमने इस केस में पॉजिटिव डायरेक्शन हमने किसको कंसीडर किया है, दैट इज द अपवर्ड डायरेक्शन। तो अब आप कंपेयर करें ऑप्शंस को, तो अब 18 न्यूटन अपवर्ड, इट मींस के आंसर इज एग्जैक्टली सेम एज इट वाज इन द प्रीवियस केस। तो इसका मतलब ये होगा कि आप चाहे डाउनवर्ड को पॉजिटिव कंसीडर करें या अपवर्ड को पॉजिटिव करें, आपका जो आंसर होगा दैट विल रिमेन सेम, उस पर कोई भी चेंज नहीं आएगा। आई होप दिस क्वेश्चन इज क्लियर। Now moving to the next question. A moving ball with a momentum 25 kilograms meter per second collides head on the uh, with a wall. It rebounds with the wall with the same speed but in opposite direction. Definitely it will move in opposite direction, but it's mentioned कि उसकी जो स्पीड में भी कोई चेंज नहीं आ रहा, वो सेम स्पीड के साथ मूव कर रहा है। आपको टाइम भी गिवन है बट इन मिली सेकेंड्स, एंड यू हैव टू कैलकुलेट द अमाउंट ऑफ फोर्स। ठीक, नाउ बिफोर solving the question again, this is you have to consider directions in this question as well, and other thing is that you have to convert the this time into seconds. So let's do it. First of all, if we convert the this milliseconds into seconds, means that we have to divide this time with a 1000, so we'll get answer 0.05 seconds. So that is the time in seconds. अब हम आते हैं चेंज इन मोमेंटम कैसे कैलकुलेट करेंगे। Again that will be final momentum minus initial momentum, but in this case as object is rebouncing in the opposite direction, so it means के उसका जो momentum after collision and momentum before collision they will have the opposite signs. So let's do it. अगर आप फाइनल मोमेंटम को पॉजिटिव कंसीडर करें तो आपका जो नेगेटिव मोमेंटम होगा दैट सॉरी जो इनिशियल मोमेंटम होगा दैट विल बी नेगेटिव। अगेन इट्स ऑन योर चॉइस, आपकी मर्जी है आप इनिशियल को पॉजिटिव कंसीडर करें या फाइनल को पॉजिटिव कंसीडर करें। लेट्स डू इट। हम ये कर रहे हैं कि हम फाइनल को पॉजिटिव लेते हैं और इनिशियल को नेगेटिव। नाउ दैट विल बिकम माइनस इंटू माइनस दैट विल बिकम प्लस, एज मोमेंटम इज नॉट चेंजिंग, सो if it is 25 kilogram meter per second, so that will remain same. So now we'll have total momentum, change in momentum, that will become 50 kilograms meter per second. अब हमने force find करनी है तो simply divide this force with the time, so we'll get an answer 1000 newtons. अगर आप इसको opposite way में करते हैं कि means कि अगर आप इसको इस तरह लेते हैं, फाइनल को आप ले लेते हैं नेगेटिव और इनिशियल को आप ले लेते हैं पॉजिटिव, so what will happen in that case, again you will get the same answer, means कि आपके पास जो आंसर आएगा that will be same, there will be no change in your answer. Now moving to the next part of this chapter, that is the law of conservation of momentum. Now ये law of conservation of momentum होता क्या है? The statement is that for an isolated system total momentum before and after collision is conserved. Now isolated system means के system in which there is no loss. If we have a system in which there is no loss, so in that system momentum before collision remains same as momentum after collision. So this is the equation for the law of conservation of momentum. In this equation, m1 is the mass of the first object and u1 is the initial velocity of the first object before collision. Same like if an other object, so m2 is the mass of that object and u2 is the initial velocity of that object before collision. On the other side of equation, we have mass of the first object and velocity of the first object after collision, means that this v1 is representing final velocity of the object after collision. Same like this will represent the overall momentum of the second object after collision. So this is the statement or and this is the equation. अब इस equation को use करके we'll be solving different questions. Now first question is that which statement correctly describes the law of conservation of momentum? Simply you have to find out कि law of conservation की correct statement कौन सी है. This is what we have just discussed कि total momentum before collision is the same as total momentum after collision. Now we have next question. Two identical balls move at the same speed as shown in the diagram. What momentum do the ball possess? Now, if they are having the same masses and the same velocities, but they are moving in the opposite direction. So it means कि इनका जो momentum का magnitude होगा, that will remain same, but the direction will be opposite. So if we are considering one as a positive, तो इसका मतलब जो other होगा, उसका जो momentum होगा, that will be negative. So the correct option is option C. Now next question. An air pistol fires a pellet forwards. What is the motion of the air pistol? Now, if you look the statement of the law of conservation of momentum, according to that statement, total momentum before collisions remains same as total momentum after collision. But that doesn't mean कि ऑब्जेक्ट की जो स्पीड होती है वो भी सेम रहेगी. That will depend कि if object is having a less mass, तो इसका मतलब ये होगा कि उसकी speed greater होगी than the object which is having the larger mass. Only then we'll have the same momentum. Now if we compare the mass of the bullet to the mass of pistol, so definitely bullet का जो mass होगा that is less than the mass of pistol. It means कि bullet की जो speed होगी that will be greater than the speed of the uh, pistol. And when uh, there is a fire from the pistol, so if bullet is moving in the forward direction, so pistol will move in the backward direction. वो backward direction में move करेगा and उसकी जो speed होगी that will be less than the speed of bullet. Definitely उसकी जो speed होगी that will be less than the speed of bullet. Reason is that bullet का mass बहुत कम है, so to acquire the same momentum it will move faster speed as compared to the pistol. So if you look for the options, so option B is the correct one. The air pistol moves backward with a speed less than the speed of pellet. Now next question. Again we are given two objects. One object X which is moving with a velocity of 5 meter per second towards right. There is another object Y which is moving with a speed of 3 meter per second towards left. अब आपने बताना है what is the velocity after collision. Collision के बाद क्या होगा, इनकी velocities कैसे होंगी. So let's do it using the law of conservation of momentum. Now this is representing the mass of first object and initial speed of the first object. So definitely mass will not change, mass will remain same. So we'll take mass as a common, so that will become u1 plus u2. So u1 u2 they are the initial speeds of these objects, so that are 5, and we have to take this 3 as a negative. This is the same concept. If we are taking 5 as a positive, so we have to take the opposite direction as a negative. तो जब हम opposite direction को negative करेंगे, on opposite side mass will remain same and their speeds are same, but we don't know what is the speed, so we have to calculate the speed. It means के we'll take v as a common. तो अब हमारे पास जो final value बन जाएगी for the v, that is 1. Now ये 1 तो आ गया. Again we have to decide कि ये स्पीड किस डायरेक्शन में होगी. मैग्नीट्यूड हमने फाइंड आउट कर लिया. अगेन दिस डायरेक्शन विल डिपेंड कि इफ यू आर टेकिंग दिस 5 as a positive, तो and your answer is also positive, so that means that that speed will be in the direction of the right, because you are taking right direction as a positive. So correct option will be option B, 1 meter per second to the right. Now next question. A ball of mass 0.16 kilogram is moving forwards at a speed of 0.5 meter per second square. A second ball of mass, इसका भी mass given है 0.10, is stationary. It's not moving stationary. The first ball strikes the second ball. Second ball moves forward at a speed of 0. Means के if one ball is stationary, when other ball hits to that object, both will start moving and their speed is now 5 meters per second. What is the speed of the first ball after collision? आपने बताना है जो first ball की speed होगी वो कितनी होगी after collision. Again we'll apply the same formula, law of conservation of momentum. Now mass of first ball, that is 0.16, and initial speed of the first ball, that is 0.10, sorry, initial speed is 0.50, and the second ball is stationary, so its speed is 0. So if we multiply it, that will get 0. On other side of equation, final speed of the first ball which we have to find out, so we'll represent it v1 or mass की भी इसका given है, and the final speed of the second ball that is given as 0.50. Then simply put the values in the equation and solve it for the v1. Again, if you are finding the difficulty, just pause the video and look for the solutions, then you will have idea how we have calculated the value of v1. So that is 0.1785, and if we round off that value, so we'll get an answer 0.19 meters per second. That is the correct option. Now, next question. A car of mass 1000 kilograms traveling at 8 meter per second collides with a lorry of mass 3000 kilograms that is traveling at a 2 meter per second in the same direction. After colliding, two vehicles stick together. Now, before collision, they were moving with the different velocities, but according to the given condition, given statement, after collision, they are stick together. Means ke now if they are stick together, so definitely they will start moving at the same velocity. So इसका मतलब है after collision दोनों की जो velocity होगी that will be same. आपने क्या find करनी है? What are their velocities after collision? Means के after collision वो किस velocity से move करेंगे? So we have to calculate that velocity. Means के we have to calculate this v. So that will remain same. So we have taken as common and just put the values in the equation and solve it for the v. So we'll get an answer 3.5 meters per second. So option C is the correct one. Now next question. A bullet of mass 0.10 kilogram travels horizontally at a speed of 600 meters per second. It strikes a stationary wooden block of mass 1.90 kilograms resting on a frictionless horizontal surface. The bullet stays in the block. अब बुलेट इन ब्लॉक वॉज इनिशियली स्टेशनरी, जब बुलेट उसमें आके हिट करेगा, सो नाउ दे बोथ हैव स्टार्टेड मूविंग. व्हाट इज द स्पीड ऑफ द बुलेट एंड द ब्लॉक इमीडिएटली आफ्टर द इम्पैक्ट? दिस इज द सेम टाइप ऑफ क्वेश्चन एज वी सॉल्व प्रीवियसली. आपने आफ्टर कोलिजन व्हिच इज फाइंड करनी है स्पीड व्हिच विल बी द सेम फॉर द बोथ ऑब्जेक्ट्स. सो simply solve it for the v. So you will get an answer 30 meter per second square. Means that we are applying the same equation just with the different values. So I'm just going little bit fast because there is a same type of solution. So we are getting an answer 30 meter per second in this question. It means the option A is the correct one. Now we move to the last part of this chapter, that is the impulse. Let's have a recap कि ये impulse होता क्या है. Now this impulse is actually the change in momentum of any object. मतलब जो ऑब्जेक्ट में चेंज इन मोमेंटम प्रोड्यूस होता है, दैट चेंज इन मोमेंटम इज कॉल्ड इम्पल्स. नाउ जो इम्पल्स को कैलकुलेट करने का फार्मूला है दैट इज आई इक्वल्स टू फोर्स मल्टीप्लाई बाय टाइम. अब ये फार्मूला हमने कहाँ से ऑब्टेन किया है? जस्ट रिकॉल from the start of the video that force is the change in momentum per unit time. So अगर हम उसमें से change in momentum की value calculate करना चाहें, that will become force multiplied by time. So that change of momentum is actually the impulse. So simply impulse will be force multiplied by time and its unit is Newton second. Means that is also taken from that formula Newton second. So let's start. First question is that complete the following sentence. Impulse is equal to, impulse किस चीज को represent करता है? So this is what we have just discussed के a corresponding change in momentum. So that is the definition of impulse. Now next question. A passenger of mass 90 kilogram is involved in a minor car crash. The car approaches a solid barrier at 32 meters per second. It crashes into the barrier and stops in 0.26. Means that when it hit the barrier, definitely it will take some time to decelerate and that time is 0.2 seconds. Now what we have to calculate, determine the impulse that must be applied to the car to bring it to the rest. आपने impulse की value find करनी है. Now formula for impulse is the force multiplied by time. It means कि first of all we have to calculate amount of force. Now amount of force calculate करने के लिए हमने इसकी deceleration calculate करनी पड़ेगी और in simple words हमने उसकी जो acceleration है वो calculate करनी पड़ेगी. So how will you calculate acceleration? that will be final velocity minus initial velocity. Now if we take in opposite way, means कि अगर आप deceleration की बात करेंगे, so actually that will be a deceleration, but in simple words we are calculating as an acceleration, ठीक है ना? That magnitude will be same, so that will be 160 meters per second square. That is the acceleration, which is actually the deceleration in this case. Now we find the force. That force is the product of mass and acceleration, so that will, this is the value of force. Now we can find the impulse simply by multiplying this force with the time. So we'll get an answer 2880 Newton second. But in given option that is not the available. So we'll choose the nearest one, that is 2900 Newton second. So that is the correct option for this question. Now moving to the next question. Padded dashboards in the cars are safer in an accident than non-padded ones because passenger hitting the dashboard would experience. This is the same type of question like question number 2 के जो impact होता है वो force means के why there is an advantage of padded dashboards. तो actually ये padded dashboards क्या करते हैं, they lengthen the time in contact. मतलब जितना time in contact increase होगा उतनी impact force reduce हो जाएगी. So that is an advantage. So that is option A is the correct one. Now next question. After a car crash, the car driver's airbag inflates. The airbag then deflates when it hits the hit by the driver's head. How does an airbag reduce the risk of injury? So this is again same type of question कि ये जो एयरबैग्स होते हैं ये रिस्क ऑफ इंजरी को कैसे रिड्यूस करते हैं, मीन्स के ये जो इम्पैक्ट फोर्स है उसको कैसे रिड्यूस करते हैं. सो हाउ दे रिड्यूस, just they increase the collision time, which increases the rate of change of momentum, by which it reduces the impact force. So option A is the correct one. Now next question. An object of mass 150 kilograms accelerate from a velocity 5 meter per second to a velocity of 10 meter per second in the same direction. What is the impulse provided to cause this acceleration? आपने उसकी जो स्पीड चेंज हो रही है फ्रॉम 5 to 10 और mass is the 150, आपने find करना है impulse. So for calculating impulse, so we have to find out change in momentum. So change in momentum means के final momentum minus initial momentum. So final momentum is mv and initial momentum is mu. So mass will remain same. So just by taking the values, final velocity is 10 and initial velocity is 5. So the final answer for the change in momentum is 150. And अब आपने impulse find करना है. So impulse is the actually the change in momentum. तो जो value change in momentum की होगी वही same value impulse की होगी. So that is the option A is the correct one. That is 750 Newton second. Now we have last question. A ball is at rest on the ground. A boy kicks the ball. The boy's foot sorry, the boy's boot in the contact with the ball for the 0.04 seconds. The average force on the ball is 200 Newton. The ball leaves the boy's boot with a speed 20 meter per second. Which row gives the impulse of the boot on the ball and the average acceleration of the ball? Means कि आपने acceleration और impulse की correct value find करनी है. Now acceleration आप किस तरह find करेंगे? Simply final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time. So that will give you an answer 500 meters per second square. That is for the acceleration, and impulse is the force multiplied by time. So force is given as 200 Newton and time is 0.05 seconds. So that will be 8 Newton seconds. So you just have to find out the correct pair. For the impulse 8 Newton seconds and acceleration is 500. So option B is the correct one. So this is all about these questions. So I have tried to solve as many questions as possible. But if still you have any difficulty in any type of question, just feel free to contact me at my WhatsApp number or on my email. Thank you. Have a nice day. Allah Hafiz.